Hey, everybody, welcome back to Number One Leading Ladies. This is a podcast by women for women where we help to bring each other up instead of tear each other down. Today, we have a very cool guest, and Mckinley, Hindi, is going to be speaking a little bit about what she does. And it's really exciting to have somebody a little bit different on our show. Normally, we'll have somebody that's in real estate or all the boring stuff you hear about over and over again. And Mckinley, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Kaylee. My name is Mckinley, and I am the CEO and founder of Anita, and we are a workplace harassment documentation tool where victims of harassment can document their experiences in their own safe, protected space so they can choose like when and if they want to share that information with third parties.
Wow, that's hugely impactful. I mean, I've been in so many different industries that we'll get into that. So typically there's 3 questions that I ask our guests that are on the show, but if our conversation goes where it goes, that's cool too. One of the biggest things when you're a founder and you're starting a company, we get to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we have on the show. And the reason why that's so important to do is because I think a lot of people, when I started building my own businesses, look at it as, oh, you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have all this extra time on your hands to go wherever you want to and work when you want to kind of thing. Oh, the freedom, and in reality, it's not like that, So talking about the challenges of, and I'll ask you directly too, when you're building a business and you go from the point of, okay, I have an idea, and then now I'm starting to take the challenges that come, which is either, bootstrapping, putting your first business on a credit card, living with mom and dad, whatever it takes. How did you go from starting, getting past those types of challenges, what were yours, and then getting to traction?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to laugh because it would be great if I could work wherever I wanted and whenever I wanted. But so my story, I hope some people might relate to this, but for me, I didn't really have a choice at the time I started to not work full-time job. And so I started out with this concept of Anita about 2 years ago. So that would have been in 2018. And I started, sketching at the wireframes and really felt like there were these common components that we see in the public conversation around workplace harassment that I wanted to combat. And those were, accusations of revisionist history or memory recall, and timing of coming forward. And that's exactly what we're trying to combat by having this place where individuals can document what's happening to them, timestamp records, they're not editable, like really trying to keep that going. So I knew I wanted to do this, but at the same time, I knew I had to keep working because of my situation. And 2 years later, I'm actually still working a day job. And I guess I'm just one of very lucky people who actually enjoys the day job and the entrepreneur side of things. But I would not have been able to do that if I hadn't asked for help. I think that's like the number one thing I can give advice to, because at least for me, and I have a sense of you are some probably like this too, like we are like independent women, like do not tell me what to do, especially if you're a man, like get out of my way. That's my mentality. And so I'd say like how I got from starting to now is I actually just started reaching out to people that I trusted in my network, first to validate the idea, second to get a sense of like, okay, how much money do I really need to do this? And for me, I found out I could do all that I wanted to do with a prototype for $20,000. So then it was, okay, where can I find $20,000? Then, I had no idea what I was doing from a legal perspective. Finding a lawyer through people who've already been there, getting those recommendations, getting set up legally first, I think was like super valuable for me. And then finding a technology partner that I trusted for the build, finding a designer that I trusted for the build. So it was very community-based, connection-based, development of the company, very organic. I wouldn't have been here had I not had that help. And it can be humbling to sometimes have to submit and recognize where you just like don't have expertise. But I wouldn't be anywhere without having advisors either. So I'm very grateful for that. And as far as getting traction, I am very impatient. And so working full time, raising it, I'm working full time and doing this. And I wanted these very unrealistic expectations for where I wanted to see Anita by a certain time frame. And whether it's work or family or, you know, any piece of the pie of being a human that's going to also have to take up some of your time, just I had to learn to have grace for that. And through patience, we, you know, took it one step at a time from a partnership perspective, from a you know, user feedback perspective. And now we're at a point where we've established ourselves with a few strong, reputable partners. And that track record that we're developing is actually the thing that's a catalyst for us to move forward. So no, we didn't have this like massive hyper scaling from day one, but there's also something to be said about setting a strong foundation if you have the luxury of doing that. Like, we didn't go after VC capital. That was a deliberate choice because we wanted to make sure that we could do things on our own terms instead of hitting specific milestones. So again, so many ways to do this, so many ways to start, but from a traction perspective, if you're taking seed money, it makes it a lot easier to lay the groundwork a little bit more slowly.
Now, when you said that you were building a prototype, so there's always that, I don't know if that's the same thing as like the minimum viable product or something where you could show other people, hey, here's what it is conceptually, here's how it works, you know, follow along the bouncing ball kind of thing. How did you take it from an idea, the wireframes and an idea basically, to giving it to someone or doing that research to know who would be the next part of your team that you needed to make it real? Like, how did you figure that out?
Yeah, well, for me, I had a technology partner from the beginning who I knew I wanted to work with, and highly recommend checking out Annie Cannons. They are a group of software developers, transformed human trafficking survivors into software developers. They do an incredible job, and it's great to be able to support that incredible mission. So working with them was number one. In terms of actually building out the experience, I actually worked really closely, you know, unfortunately, there are a lot of women out there you can work with who can give you like their experience with workplace harassment. That kind of sucks, but it's also really helpful in helping us shape what people need. So I knew, okay, if I want this to work for individuals facing harassment, and I want to make sure that what I'm building could be used legally if worse comes to worse and someone needs that. So I worked with a very, very good UX designer who also happens to currently be in the middle of a lawsuit after a very messy separation from a company due to workplace harassment. So she was very instrumental in getting me, when I was too close to the product, pulling me out and really reminding me of what's most important for users. And then I worked with employment lawyers because that was the other piece of kind of guiding. So for me, it was looking at who's my end user and what support do they need? Those are the people I need to pull in first.
Wow. Wow. So, I mean, so let's talk about the tech part of what you do. So I understand, you know, you're helping in or to reduce workplace harassment. How does it happen? What is the technological partner that's involved? What did they put together with you to, what did they do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the reality is what we built is not like at all groundbreaking from a technology perspective. What we're doing though is shifting, I think, one very crucial piece, which is who owns the data that's being documented. So a lot of tools that have been developed to support workplace harassment are really catered to supporting enterprise. So companies who want to better manage reporting, right? Or want better workplace harassment training. And that is fantastic. We need people across the spectrum of this problem, right? Looking at different pieces. Now we're still seeing really crazy numbers though, in terms of the number of women, 1 in 3 facing workplace harassment. I'm talking specifically about sexual harassment right now, but obviously workplace harassment spans like beyond sexual harassment. And I think that's really important to just call out quickly. But sexual harassment, 1 in 3 women, that's not even including men. And of those women, only 71% of those are going unreported. So 71% of incidents don't even get reported. And if you you start to dig into the why, well, over 60% of people don't believe that their claim will be fairly addressed or timely addressed by their company. So what we're seeing is that there's still a gap there. Now, if you're not feeling secure in your company, who may or may not already be offering services, like what will shift that pair? Like what's going to shift that dynamic? And we truly believe and are seeing that having ownership over data, having that, like being able to own that experience and be the one who chooses to share that when you want to, having it be your own personal account that has nothing to do with your employee, your company email or your professional email, that is what we're trying to do. And I think, one thing we kind of forget sometimes is that we have a growing population of gig workers. So we have it's a whole population of people who don't even have access to this traditional reporting lines, through a large corporate, and think about people in startups. I mean, there are so many places that with their best intentions are not set up to support people going through these situations. So that's ultimately what we're really focusing on. So the technology piece is we are a web app. You can access us from any desktop, from any mobile device. You can create your personal account. You can start, documenting reports of harassment. You'll see them. You can always add to them. You can always add new. And then only if you are ready and want to, you can choose which records you want to show. That'll kind of populate into a PDF. And then you just send that out to whoever it is that you want to be sharing that with. So like I said, nothing groundbreaking from a technology perspective, but from a power shift, from a, if you will, like from a data like ownership perspective, that's really where we're focusing.
That's awesome. Specifically, are you guys using any kind of smart contract technology to where it's like an immutable record where nobody can mess with it? Like that's a big part of evidence. Like if they want to use that later for good, if you just need proof, because I mean, I'm in a situation personally, have been my entire life where exactly, why are you dealing with this now? And can you recall the memories, and can you recall what you were wearing, and can you recall the colors of everything and what time of day it was? And they keep asking you these questions over and over. It freaks you out. It scares you. It makes you upset. And like a lot of times going into dissociation mode, you're not going to remember those details. And so having a true and accurate record is so important.
Absolutely. And what you're saying, I mean, I think that's the part that sometimes we forget. Like this is traumatic experience. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it can be as significant as a phrase uttered that makes you question your, validity or your value in an environment, to physical harm and like traumatic emotional harm. And so none of that is like worse or better than the other. It's just, it all is traumatizing. So to your question around sort of like, how do we create records that people can't mess with? So you're going through a user flow, you'll get brought through questions when you want to submit a record. And then you can review all of the information after you've gone through that. And then it is automatically added to your dashboard, and it is time-stamped. And you can never go back to edit or delete that. You can always add addendum, but it'll show that it's an addendum at a later date, and it'll timestamp that. So that's how we're really trying to combat this, like the questions around like, well, when are you coming forward and why now? And what if you're wrong? Well, I mean, this is as close as you're going to get to having that, really in front of you, and very, validated, of your memory and your experience. And so, and honestly, from my own experience, it's also like, I don't want people to have to dredge up that trauma.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's ridiculous. I've been in deposition after deposition, and you've got this attorney literally making you feel like you caused all of this and this is your fault. Yeah. And it's sick, and if you just had some kind of record, it's like, here you go. And then you don't have to go through those experiences. Like I've been dealing with my stuff for over 4 years, Yeah. And it never ends. So this is an awesome, awesome thing that you're working on and that you're producing for a lot of people. And I really like, if I understood correctly, how you said that even in a startup situation or in a situation where you have workers that are coming and going, there's a way for it to be used still. Now, is it by the individuals that need the service, or is it by the company that engages?
It's individual. So this is, when I was going back to what's really actually our, our innovation, if you will, it's really actually in our privacy agreement. It's in the data agreement, because we're, tools that are made available and sold to enterprise will protect the enterprise interests, of course. Like, whoever your target is, that's who you're going to be protecting interests of. And that's not to say that corporations are evil and like out to protect them, protect assailants or harassers from justice. That's not it. But it is a different dynamic if you're saying, this is your data, you're going to own it no matter where you work or where you go. It's always going to be here. It's very different. So, we are, our structure, our business model, it's not B2B. We're definitely staying at the B2C level right now. We are exploring partnerships with institutions that have no conflict of interest, with purchasing memberships for their members. But right now the tool is absolutely free. We're still building our user base and trying to get feedback and make this as robust as possible. So at this moment, you can get on for free.
That's super cool. I mean, this is amazing. I'm just thinking in my head, man, if this could have been put in my school when I was in high school, when I was working my first job at 15, 16, I mean, starting that comfortable level with talking about what you're going through. Again, I'm thinking, how do we put this in schools with the counselors? They don't care. They just want to see like, okay, are you going to college or not? Like which one, don't care. You just pick one, they don't really have a specific staff person on staff that would be there to say, okay, well, let's check in with like, how's it at home? Like, how's your real life going? Let's talk about that and get you to at least talk about things. But then again, that's in confidence. None of it's probably recorded. I've been through therapy where none of it's really recorded. None of it's really useful information unless you have that individual testify. And in certain situations, it's not admissible in court. So anyway, getting comfortable at 15, 16, when I'm working my first couple jobs of like, hey, this is just how we handle this issue, I think would prevent a lot of what happens out there in the workforce, or period, like if I was just comfortable even at home, saying that.
Yeah. Well, Kaylee, like per usual, I feel like we're on the same wavelength, because that's exactly the direction we're going right now in terms of, who do we really want to target to be a part of the Anita community? Well, like I said, everybody, anybody, like people who listen to your podcast, if you're a real estate agent, you don't necessarily have that straight path, but you've got some creepy people out there. So, and some really scary times, I mean, I've only heard these stories secondhand, but it's not good. So you still need protection, and this is a tool to protect you. And for us, we're really looking at Gen Z. We're looking at this new generation of social activists who are digital savvy, who are comfortable actually really challenging the status quo, for them to enter the workplace with an expectation that, of course, I'm going to be documenting this. Of course, I'm going to stand up for myself, and I'm going to have the evidence to do that. They're used to having like this, the digital documentation anyway. I mean, unlike us, thank God. I'm so glad there was no like Facebook when I was young, because I don't want all those awkward photos of me, floating on the internet. But they are so used to it, and that's why I think that Gen Z, when they get into the workplace, if they have tools like Anita and they have the knowledge, they're equipped with the knowledge from the get-go, like they're going to be unstoppable. They're going to change and transform the infrastructure in which we have these conversations and shift that paradigm completely. I'm sure of it. So I'm very, very excited.
Oh my God. I'm just like, this is my moment of joy for the day. Like, it's just so cool, because I'm sitting there going, oh my God, this needs to be a subscription service, and everybody's parents need to pay like $2 a month, and that's all they got to pay. And then you have like a billion families or 7 billion families using it, like huge anyway, but it's a neat.
That's why I just love like working with you and talking to you. So I love that idea, actually. I
live on a 30,000 foot view level for sure. Like, this could be huge. Okay, so but while we have another 5 minutes or so, I do have, so you answered one of our questions we always ask in our conversations. So that's awesome. One of the other ones I wanted you to be able to share with our audience, what do you think so far, and you can answer this however you want to, has been your biggest win?
This is going to sound weird, but so I think when I started out on this journey, I'm I don't know what personality type this would be, Enneagram, whatever, but I've grown up as a diplomat. Like that was always my role growing up. And, a lot of my career has been sort of that role of getting the right people together. Let's figure this out. Like, you don't rock the boat, you facilitate the thing, or you kind of stand behind the thing. So first of all, having to take a stand was really uncomfortable for me. And so I think my biggest win has been finally getting to a point of saying, I don't care if you don't like what we're doing, because what we're doing is right. And so it's kind of one of those things where you look at, especially when I talk to people who are in more traditional workplaces, typically male, typically older, definitely mostly white, having conversations and hearing the what ifs and sort of like the focus on like, well, I've had men actually ask me like, well, what if a man is like wrongfully accused? And I was like, what? Like, first of all, that could happen now. And actually, probably Anita will stop that if that's even a thing. But second of all, like, what are you talking about? How is that your primary concern? So for me, really getting away from trying to play diplomat in those conversations and be more like honest, like, hey, this is happening. This is the direction that the world's going. I mean, think about the number of sites and hashtags and just how social media in general has completely shifted customer engagement from a corporation perspective. Like, you are really so much more at the mercy of your customers' expectations and their voice than ever before. So what makes you think that's not going to eventually become part of, the expectations from workers to their companies? It's bound to happen. And it's already happening. So be a part of it or get left behind.
Yeah, get on the train or bye.
No, I mean, that sounds like a bizarre answer, I guess, but really for me, finding my voice as a founder with an issue that has a lot of sensitivity around it, has a lot of feelings, has a lot of gray area, at some point you just have to take a stand. And that's really been very monumental for me.
No, that's not strange at all. It's huge. I mean, same thing over here, totally different things and different reasons and whatever. But what ends up happening is that when you become that person who's like, damn it, I'm putting my foot in the ground. This is what I'm doing. That's who you attract around you, that they accept, okay, that's what you're doing. So we are too. And we're supporting that. And the people that get freaked out by that, they go away. They just like disappear. You don't need them anyway. So I end up attracting in my life because I realized my first mentor, I'm like, why did this even happen? Normally you're supposed to like give your time to this person or figure out a way to support them. And, they give you their experience kind of as a mentee or like a sponsoree or whatever. But at the end of the day, when we started going through things together, I realized, oh, this is what it is. We both stand for justice. So at the end of the day, whether it's, I don't agree with verbal abuse, I don't agree with extortion, blackmail, I don't agree with any kind of abuse, period, and taking advantage of people, lying, being anti-transparent. And then so I have some deputy sheriffs in my life and some judges and some people that are the good kind that I realized that's why I attracted them, is because I was doing what you're doing, where you're just going, nope, damn it, this is who I am and I'm going to consistently be that way. If you don't like it, bye. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I wish that every woman would get to that place where whatever it is that you care about, whether it's your children or whether it's, painting or whether it's, not standing for people getting in your way and treating you badly or whatever it is, that we would just say, hey, here it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I think there are so many, this is a totally different podcast, but like there are so many social constructs that teach us what we should be and what we shouldn't be as women. And for me, like through my adulthood, having to work through, for me, I am a Christian, having to work through this like Christianese expectation of what a good woman is, which is like, docile, never angry, whatever bull crap is out there. Like, no, that's not actually, that's something that's derived from the patriarchy, and has nothing to do with faith, has everything to do with the way that the church was run. And it's the same thing with, the way we're taught to navigate workplace harassment. That's insane. Or like the way we're taught to avoid rape. No, why don't we focus on teaching and educating men to stop raping? Like, I don't know, but this just seems like a better use of our time.
Yeah.
So we're taught to be, we're taught to be, constantly like balancing and navigating a world that honestly should be rethought. So I'm off my soapbox now, but I totally agree. And I hope that Anita has something to do with really moving the needle for women, and not just for women. I want to be very clear, for anyone who's experiencing injustice in the workplace. Men face it too. I really, especially, we need to be very, very thoughtful about the way that we support transgender people in the workplace. And as a white woman, I know for a fact that I have it much easier in my experience than a lot of my friends who are women of color. And beyond that, I mean, we have to think about my husband is a refugee. There's a whole population of people who don't have English as first language, who are completely, left out in the cold because of that. So there are so many people who need access to the tools that will empower them. And for our generation, for this time in history, data is that empowerment. So that's really, really, really what we're trying to get out for everyone in this country.
That's awesome. Mckinley, I really appreciate your time coming on the show today. We will have to do another podcast again, kind of like bulldozing those social constructs and talking a little bit about, for me, it's how gender has been assigned to what we do, what we can't do, our toys. We go on forever. So I'll have to have you back again. But for today, if anyone is interested in bringing in the ability to get rid of workplace harassment, I would love them to contact you. How can our listeners and watchers get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Well, Instagram is at myanita.io. So I can make sure you have that so you can write it out. It sounds funny when you say it. And then if you want to check out our product, you can hit myanita.io and you'll have access. You can sign up for an account there. If you just want to reach out to me, Mckinley at myanita.io. I'm always happy to hear from anybody who's interested in learning more.
Awesome. This has been very educational and a great time. Like I said, this has been my joy for the day. So thank you for giving me that.
Oh, mine too. I got my energy back. I was really lagging before I got on this call.
Same.
So.
Yeah, same. So everybody that's listening and watching, please reach out to Mckinley or myself if you have any questions about getting involved with the Anita Project. I really would like to quickly make a difference in the world. Again, we both are impatient, but for good reasons. So you will see us again on our show, Number One Leading Ladies, next week. Thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see y'all soon.